Je laisse la parole à Mathieu Doumange. Merci.
Caroline, bonsoir à toutes et à tous, bienvenue. Pour ce deuxième rendez-vous, nous avons le plaisir d'accueillir l'un des plus grands commissaires-priseurs de vin au monde. Natif de Londres, il a rejoint le groupe Sotheby en 1990, d'abord dans sa ville natale, avant de lancer les bureaux de New York en 1994 et Hong Kong en 2009. Il a ensuite piloté le lancement de la branche Sotheby's Wine and Spirits, dont il est le directeur mondial, et à ce titre continue de veiller à la croissance de l'activité vin et spiritueux de la société. Au fil de sa carrière, notre invité a présidé de nombreuses ventes aux enchères records, dont nous allons certainement parler au cours de cette interview. Il fait également autorité sur le marché du vin et apparaît régulièrement dans le Wall Street Journal, le New York Times, le Financial Times, le Los Angeles Times, Forbes et le magazine Wine Spectator. Un petit mot sur Sotheby's. Cette vénérable maison de vente aux enchères, l'une des 4 maisons les plus anciennes au monde, a été fondée en 1744 et a son siège social basé à New York. Spécialisée dans les œuvres d'art et objets de collection, elle organise quelques 350 ventes chaque année à travers le monde. Nous avons le plaisir de recevoir M. Jamie Ritchie. Bonjour Jamie, bienvenue parmi nous.
Thank you very much for inviting me to be with you today. It's a great pleasure. It's a sunny day in New York, a little bit earlier in the day, before lunchtime, but delighted to be with you and thank you for having me.
Merci de nous consacrer cette petite heure et d'accepter de nous parler de votre carrière, de votre parcours et puis de cet univers que peut-être notre audience connaît un petit peu, mais va découvrir davantage, celui de l'univers des ventes aux enchères, des grands vins, qui passionne beaucoup de collectionneurs à travers le monde. Jamie, tout d'abord, on aimerait faire un peu mieux confiance, un peu mieux connaissance avec vous, pardon pour le lapsus, et en sachant un peu plus sur votre parcours personnel, sur votre vie, depuis votre naissance à Londres. Comment, tout simplement, avez-vous découvert le vin et vous êtes-vous découvert une passion pour le vin?
So I don't think I really knew when I grew up that I was interested in wine, but I do remember some bottles of wine that my parents served me for lunches when I was 14, 15. I remember the names of the properties, I remember the vintages. So clearly there was something in the back of my mind that showed an interest. I then went to London. I was studying law. And while I was studying law, I was working. I was buying cases of wine to take to parties with friends rather than just buying a bottle at a time. So clearly there was an interest sort of there that I didn't know about. And as I was working, studying law, I worked in bars and restaurants and tasted more wines. And so as I went through it, I realized that law was not so interesting for me. I like criminal law, but the rest of it was not so interesting. And I started sort of getting more and more interested in the wine business. And then from working in bars and restaurants, I went to work in one restaurant group. The person was very, saw that I was interested in wine. He was a fantastic person. He sent me on some wine and spirit education trust courses, fostered my interest in wine, took bets with me about rugby matches where he'd ensure I'd win and he'd give me a case of wine. And then I moved to another restaurant group, which had one retail store and 3 restaurants. We went to 10 restaurants in 4 years. It was in the late 80s. And I tasted a lot of Chablis, of Sancerre, of Pinot Grigio, those types of wines, running the list of the restaurants and the retail store. And I realized I sort of wanted to work in the fine wine business and really foster my interest in that area. And so at that time, I realized that in the fine wine business, you could work for an auction house, you could work for a fine wine merchant or a broker. And I thought an auction house would be interesting because on the other side of it, when I grew up, my parents, when they moved out of London, they got a big rambling house in the countryside, and I was always in the back of some auction room as we were carting out clocks, chests of drawers, all the gardening equipment came from my father built a grass tennis court. All the equipment came from auction houses, so I was sort of familiar with auction houses. And then I wanted to be an actor, and when I grew up, I wanted to be an actor. And in England, a failed actor becomes a barrister, so someone who stands up in court and presents a case. Your acting brief is a little bit less. And in my case, I guess a failed barrister becomes an auctioneer. So the acting role is reduced, but there is a performance element to it. You're encouraging people to do things. You have to react to the audience, so it's a little bit different to acting. But that was the way. So I was very lucky. I was able to I arrived at the decision. Okay, well, I want to work in fine wine. Could I work in auction house? And literally that weekend that I sort of arrived upon that, there was an advertisement in the Times newspaper in England advertising for a role at Sotheby's. So I duly applied for it, and I think there were 367 candidates, of which I was one, and it came down to 2 of us at the end, and they needed someone with my experience rather than what the other person had. So I luckily joined Sotheby's over 30 years ago.
Quel âge aviez-vous quand vous avez démarré?
Oh, that's a very good question. I guess I was 27.
Vous vous souvenez de votre toute première vente aux enchères?
I do. Well, I don't remember so much my first sale. I remember being a little perplexed by it because in those days the auctioneer called out the name of the winning bidder, and so the auction room was full of the trade who were listening to who was buying the wines, and then were going and trying to sell additional wines to the buyers. And I found this very, very strange behavior, because why would Sotheby's give the names of the buyers to the other, to their, effectively their competitors? And so one of the first things which I did was I guess a little bit novel and probably not very appropriate, but I just, in January of that year, or maybe it was in September, I just started allocating paddle numbers on a Lotus 123 spreadsheet to the bidders. And we started calling out numbers rather than the names. And really that was the first time it had been done. And so we went to a numbered system very, very quickly, well ahead of the rest of our business. And then obviously the number of occupants in the sale room dried up because the trade didn't want to come and listen to a bunch of numbers where they couldn't glean the information. So I definitely remember that. I also remember a sale in January 91, just after I started, when we had a sale the day after the Gulf War was announced, and that was announced on, I think it was a Tuesday evening. We had a sale on a Wednesday, and we arrived in the morning to lots of bid sheets being faxed, cancelling their bids in the auction. And those years, 91, 2, 3, were pretty tough years in the auction business. So it was good to understand what a down cycle is rather than an up cycle, which we've mostly witnessed since.
Justement, à quoi ressemblait l'univers des ventes aux enchères de vin à ce début des années 90 et comment l'avez-vous vu évoluer en l'espace de 30 ans?
So, I mean, really, it was a very, very small insular world. There were certainly international collectors from Asia and from the Americas. We were only operating in London at that time. We were a tiny little business. And it was really for connoisseurs, aficionados, and the trade. And we would have sold well over 50% of our wines to the trade at that time. I mean, the world of auctions today is significantly different. Yeah, our auction sales are around $100 million a year. We're currently operating out of London, New York, and Hong Kong. We'll be opening in France in the autumn season. And it really is, we have a global market. And so, we are, I was talking with our CEO the other day, and he was, he was saying that we run our business in a much more global nature than many of the other teams and departments selling, whether that's art or jewelry or watches. We really are a global business. We have clients living all around the world, having collections in different locations. We sell them in whether it's London, New York, or Hong Kong, where we don't mind which location we sell the property in. There's a few different determinants as to where we would sell property, but I would say we're really a global business with a growing client base. The average age of the buyer has gone from somewhere near 65 to closer to 40, and it really is. It's a very dynamic global group of clients, with lots of younger people coming into the marketplace every week.
Alors, l'une des étapes qui sont arrivés relativement tôt dans votre carrière, mais qui a été fondamentale. C'est votre arrivée à New York, 1994. Racontez-nous cette étape importante.
Sure. I mean, for me, I've been with Sotheby's for 4 years, and we heard that the regulations were changing in New York, permitting wine auctions to take place. So we very quickly got on a plane, came to New York, worked with our colleagues here. We set up a joint venture with a partnership with Sherry Lehman, and we held our first auction in 1994. And that was, yeah, I remember our budget was about $500,000. I think we did 1.5 million, and I was meant to return to go back to living in London. And so I started coming here regularly, and then we couldn't find anyone to run the business. So I ended up moving to New York in 1995, ostensibly for 2 years. I guess some 25 years later, I'm still here. And so that has certainly taken a big effect on my life. As far as the market's concerned, from 1994, when the regulations enabled auctions to take place, it really fundamentally changed the price of wine globally. Because it meant the Americans, rather than they had a legal ability to resell wine, so therefore they could build collections and resell them. Prior to that, they had to sell them for cents on the dollar because it wasn't legal to do that. So it really enabled American collectors to start buying wine. And from 1994 through 2008, when Lehman Brothers crashed, the American wine bar was the least price sensitive, and there was a huge transfer of wine from Europe to the Americans. And so, regulation plays a really important part. And the reason that the price of wine escalated during that time was primarily due to that regulatory change.
Et l'étape suivante, bien sûr, c'était l'ouverture du marché asiatique et l'ouverture du bureau à Hong Kong de Sotheby's.
Yes, I mean, Hong Kong was and remains a very, very interesting and dynamic market. And we were fortunate when Lehman Brothers went down in October 2008. I was actually in Hong Kong at that time, setting up our Hong Kong wine business, and we had our first sale in Hong Kong in April 2009. And prices had dropped pretty much 40% after Lehman Brothers, and the market was definitely struggling. We were very, very fortunate in that April sale. We saw the Asian buyers, obviously driven by mainland China, starting coming into the marketplace and buying wine. So we were the first category at Sotheby's to really bounce back. We bounced back very, very quickly. And in 2009, our sales were $14 million. So right off the bat, we had a great year competing with New York for value of sales. And the next year in 2010, we sold $55 million of wine. So the ramp up was unbelievably fast. I was going to Asia 8 or 9 times that year. Since that time, since 2009, the Asian wine bar has been the least price sensitive and remains so today. We see of our sales by value, roughly 65% is sold to Asian bars from our global sales. So it is a super important market. It has fluctuated, I would guess, between probably 68, 69% and 60% over the last 10 years. The Asian bars have been that dominant in the marketplace, even more dominant in spirits. And I think it was 78% last year. So a super important market for us, one that really understands, appreciates, and enjoys wine, and it's going to remain very, very important going forward.
Alors évidemment, on va parler un petit peu plus en détail de cette percée spectaculaire du marché asiatique. Mais d'abord, comment définiriez-vous les principales différences entre le marché britannique, le marché américain, le marché asiatique, d'autres marchés européens comme celui de la France pour les collectionneurs de vin?
I would say that they all have their regional differences. I think the easiest way to explain it in very simple terms is that the English and the French drink wine for lunch and for dinner 7 days a week. So they need a good range of wines of different price points, different countries, different grape varieties, and that is why they have very diverse markets and less vintage sensitive. On the other extreme, I would say that the Americans mostly still drink wine 2 to 3 days a week. and that's in the evenings, very rare at lunchtime. So in England, the lunchtime, getting clients gathering together for lunches, and in France it's not a problem. In America, you would never have a lunch with wine, apart from with friends on a very special occasion. It would never be a business lunch. And so really, because they're drinking wines 2 to 3 times a week, in the evenings only, they are going to be buying the best wines that they can afford, so the best producers in the best vintages. So it's the most vintage sensitive marketplace, and a slightly narrow marketplace. And then in Hong Kong and in Asia, you've got something in the middle, maybe 3 to 5 times a week, and so you've got a more diverse marketplace. And that's a sort of a generalization, but a good characterization of the market. I would say that for us, the very highest value wines, so the most revered wines in the greatest vintages are the strongest markets still in Hong Kong. And in Asia, I would say, older, mature vintages is probably Europe, and probably for all-round breadth of Burgundy is probably the Americas. So you've got you definitely have little niches and little interest between the different continents. And when we open up in France, it'll be very interesting to see any regional differences in that marketplace.
Nous allons y revenir d'ailleurs. Mais pour reparler du marché asiatique, ou plutôt on devrait dire des marchés asiatiques, est-ce que vous distinguez au sein de cette spectaculaire progression des 12 dernières années des détails dans les différents marchés selon les pays, que ce soit à Hong Kong, en Chine continentale et évidemment dans les pays voisins?
So I think we've seen an evolution in throughout Asia, and obviously at the beginning, it was very much focused on the Bordeaux chateaus that everyone was aware of and knew, and then it started expanding from there to from the first growth and with Cheval Blancos and etc. to second growth in a broader marketplace, and we saw the same concentration in Burgundy. First of all, the top 5 names, then the top 10 names. And then a broadening out from there. And I think we see that the Asian buyers are very, they learn very quickly. They do appreciate, enjoy wine. And the sharing of food is very commonplace in Asia. The sharing of wine fits very well into that. We see that they're very, very sophisticated. As far as blind tasting goes, we do a lot of blind tasting in Asia. They're very, very good blind tasters. They enjoy the competition and sport of that. But from regional variations, I would say that they appreciate all the best things in life throughout Asia. So there's less specific country variations. I would say that's true across both wines and spirits.
Aujourd'hui, dans le marché mondial des enchères de grands vins, quels sont les principaux vignobles, les régions viticoles qui dominent le marché, ou bien les domaines, les marques qui sont les plus prisées?
So we've had a very interesting evolution of the marketplace, which I would not have predicted 10 years ago. So Bordeaux has always been the mainstay of the auction business. When we're in London only, it would be 70+% of our UK business, and it remained that until just a few years ago. When we opened in Hong Kong, it was 70% of our business. In New York, it was 70% of our business. What has happened over the last few years is that Bordeaux prices have remained pretty flat, and Burgundy prices have increased very, very significantly. So whereas Bordeaux was across our business back in 2014 was 65% of our business, and Burgundy was 26% of our business. In the recent years, Bordeaux has become 26% of our business, and Burgundy going somewhere between 40 and 50% of our business. And at the same time, we've seen the rise in spirits, which was less than 1% of our business in 2014, and has now risen to 19% of our business. So you've seen this unbelievable. If you said to me 10 years ago that Bordeaux would be 26% of our business, I would have said never. And yet that's the reality of where we are today. So what has caused that? It's caused it by the Bordeaux prices remaining pretty flat across the board. And I think that has something to do with the distribution system in Bordeaux and the en primeur system. And you've seen Burgundy prices increasing because as you've got new collectors coming into the marketplace, whether they're younger or older, they haven't tasted these wines. And if you want to taste a Roumier Musigny 1990, there's a tiny production of it, and many of which a number of bottles have already been consumed. So therefore, the prices are escalating. And as wealth's been created by younger generations of people, if they want to taste these wines, they have to pursue them. And the prices of Burgundy have risen very strongly, and have reached heights which no one probably thought they'd get to at this time. And so you've had an increase in price. There's limited supply, and then with the rise in spirits, we've also seen that spirits have been a very interesting part of the marketplace. So in terms of which wineries, which brands, which producers are dominating, it's very interesting. We've been publishing a market report, which is available on our website at sotheby's.com for the last 8 or 9 years. And every single year, the #1 producer of what we sell worldwide is Domaine La Romanée-Conti. And they're always in excess of 20% of our worldwide sales. So they only produce 8 or so wines, but they are always over 20% of our market by value, which is super interesting. And they represent, last year they represented 48% of the Burgundy that we sold by value. So following on from that would be Jaillet, Loire, Rousseau, Roumier, Dujac, Meunier, etc. But they are very dominant in that category. In terms of Bordeaux, it is what you would expect. So our sales are obviously the volume of bottles we sell by the average bottle price, and so Petrus is always near the top, as are Mouton, Lafite, Latour, Margaux, Haut-Brion, La Mission, Cheval Blanc, etc. In Champagne, not surprisingly, the volume of production of Dom Perignon compares the number of bottles produced. That's normally our #1 best-selling champagne, followed by Krug. And in Italy, it's dominated by the Super Tuscan, so Ornelas, Sassicaia, Massetto would be at the top there. And in spirits, it's in a way it's a bit similar. There's the Macallan is the #1 selling distillery pretty much every year in a regionally dominant position, similar to Domaine La Romanée-Conti. And then we got Dalmore, Bowmore, and then also the Japanese whiskies, in Karazawa and Yamazaki are also up there. And let's not forget Maotai, the Chinese Baiju spirit, which we sell significant value of in our Hong Kong auctions. So so it's sort of interesting because those statistics are driven by the volume of production times the highest average value. And so that's where that sort of comes from. And does it change? Yes, it does. Does it change significantly? Probably not very much.
Vous voulez dire que les valeurs sûres restent des valeurs sûres, quelle que soit l'évolution du marché?
Yes, I think that's the case. Well, the tried and tested, with proven quality and longevity, are always going to be a value in the marketplace, I think, and will always retain value. There'll be other producers that gain in ascendancy in terms of value. What's interesting is to try and the holy grail in the way of wine production is finding or creating a winery like Ornelas or Opus One or Vega Sicilia or Penfolds Grange that produces a high volume of wine at a very high quality, and that equals sort of the high value. So that's the sort of, in a way, the holy grail of a wine business.
Vous nous avez dit à l'instant que le domaine de la Romanée-Conti représente à lui seul 20% du marché, du chiffre d'affaires réalisé par Sotheby sur le vin. Quand on avait préparé cette interview, vous m'aviez dit qu'il représentait autant que les 6 propriétés suivantes, les 6 domaines suivants. Vous me confirmez ça?
Yes, I mean, it is surprising, and over the years we've been cutting the data different ways, but yes, essentially it is that surprising that you can have Lafite, Latour, Mouton, Margaux, Petrus all aggregated together, and they don't reach the sales of Domaine La Romanée-Conti. So it is true that whatever the statistics, it'll be the next 5 or 6 different producers would be still aggregated together, would be less than that, which is a sort of a difficult concept to get your head around, and it still remains a difficult concept for me to get my head around.
La rareté est certainement l'un des principaux atouts de la Bourgogne sur le marché des enchères, le fait qu'il finalement il y ait peu de volume.
Yes, I mean, yeah, and that really runs through the secondary market overall. And so, yeah, scarcity is obviously you need demand. So quality is quality with scarcity, and perceived quality. So I mean, I think that is always going to drive demand, and it does the distilleries in Scotland have been very clever about how they how their production is and how they market their whiskies, and they almost sort of define that model. Wine does it slightly differently by the vineyards in Burgundy by being a certain size are limited in production, and it's not easy for any producer to gain any significant increase in the size of their vineyards, and prices are significantly high for that. So it is scarcity and quality are the two drivers.
Vous avez évoqué le cas de Bordeaux et le fait que les prix étaient relativement stables. Vous avez aussi parlé du système des primeurs qui pourrait expliquer finalement la baisse d'appétit pour Bordeaux sur le marché des enchères. Est-ce que vous pouvez nous expliquer ça?
Yes, I mean, so en primeur has been very, very important to the Bordeaux business for a significant amount of time. It is, and we're going through the 2020 campaign right now, which is proving, to be, I think, it's still in the initial stages, but proving to be, a successful campaign. I just think that the limitations of selling wine en primeur in barrel, not in bottle, means that we're all selling them to a much smaller marketplace than we would be. And so, there's an evolution in what's going on in terms of the quantity that's put out onto the marketplace. But I think it is a challenge for Bordeaux wines in the marketplace to get broader distribution, to the consumers who are drinking it. And so what defines success in the Bordeaux business is a chateau selling it to a negociant selling the allocation they want to sell it to. It's not necessarily a success when it gets to is the consumer getting that bottle, as many consumers as might want to buy it, getting that bottle and enjoying it. And so I think that's one of the challenges with the price of Bordeaux today, because Bordeaux represents unbelievably good value for money. And you look at the en primeur prices and you think for this value for money, this is great. And so there's a little bit of a barrier between seeing what it is, the price it is today, and when they're going to receive it in 2 years' time, etc. So there's a bit of a disconnect in that.
J'aimerais qu'on fasse aussi un petit retour sur le marché des spiritueux qui a littéralement explosé ces dernières années. Il semble, d'après ce que vous nous dites, se focaliser quand même principalement sur le whisky. Qu'en est-il des spiritueux français, notamment le cognac?
So yes, I mean the market is primarily driven by whiskey today, and that's number one Scotch whiskey, number two is Japanese whiskey, number three American whiskey, and those are really the dominant sections of the marketplace. I think cognac, is going to be something that comes up and becomes of more interest in the secondary market. I think there are some challenges with it. Obviously, the whiskey producers have been producing limited quantities of great rare whiskies for many years, and they have both the age statement, the 20-year-old, 30-year-old, 50-year-old, as well as the vintage, and that's some of the challenges that cognac faces in that marketplace. I think there's undoubtedly great liquid in the cognac houses, and I think it'll be very, very interesting to see how we can work together with them to help drive a secondary marketplace. And I think us opening in France will also be an interesting element to that process. But I think I have big hopes for that marketplace, but it's not going to happen in the very near term.
Et pour en revenir au succès, en tout cas à la demande très importante autour du whisky, Comment expliquez-vous cette progression incroyable ces dernières années?
So I mean, I think the interest has been increasing on a global basis. I think it is, Asia has been particularly dominant in it, and that results in 78% of our sales, to Asian buyers. So I think they are very interested in the quality and the scarcity elements of it and competing for that. The quality is undoubtedly there, and I think it's been a bit of a niche marketplace that's been somewhat overlooked, and suddenly has grown in popularity, with different whiskey bars, with cocktail. Those will rise in the popularity of cocktails and cocktail bars, and so and I think COVID has in a way almost exaggerated that appreciation. So I think whiskey remains very strong. We did get a record price for a bottle of a world record price for a bottle of cognac last year in London with the Gautier 1762 bottle. So I think there will be. But we come back to the whiskey, and we sold a bottle of Macallan for $1.9 million in 2019, and that's the highest price of any wine or whiskey that is around.
Bon, là, merci d'avoir planté le décor pour nous tous sur le marché des enchères. Maintenant, j'aimerais qu'on parle un peu plus de souvenirs ou de grands moments que vous avez pu vivre ou même provoquer avec votre métier. Quelles sont les ventes qui vous ont le plus marqué, qui vous ont laissé un souvenir indélébile, soit par le caractère exceptionnel des vins qui ont été vendus, soit par le montant des enchères?
So well, over a 30-year career, there are many, and so I mean, certainly the first big one was for me, it was in 1993 at the Prince of Montana Taxis had a sale in Regensburg in Germany, where we sold the highest quantity of wine we've ever sold, which was 75,000 bottles of wine over 3 days. I also happened to meet my wife during that process in Germany. She's French, but she was working at Sotheby's at those days. So that was certainly a very memorable thing. I think certainly the first auction in New York in 1994 was a momentous occasion. We must have had 500 plus people in the room, for that sale. We certainly we probably had almost 1,000 people in the sales in Regensburg in Marquise. And then we sold some of the great collections, some of the great named collections that we've sold, whether it's Andrew Lloyd Webber or Bill Koch, Don Stott. Some of them are anonymous. Transcendent Wines was a $30 million collection, the highest value we've sold. We did the Ultimate Whiskey sale, which was in London. That was a $10 million auction in 2019. And that was a very innovative sale, which we did, putting it in a different location. We rather than selling it at our it's actually an American collection, we shipped it to the UK. Rather than selling it at our Bond Street offices, we actually joined up with our friends at RM Sotheby's, our team who sell cars and automobiles, and we teamed up with them, and we actually had the whiskey auction in the middle of a car exhibition at Olympia. And so we had the drink and the drive combined, and we had a Macallan bar there, and just the setting was a magical setting for that single owner sale, and I think it was $3 to $4 million worth of whiskey that we turned into a $10 million collection and achieved that $1.9 million record price. So those are sort of if you like, the private collections. We've also been privileged to do a lot of sales with producers. Namely a lot in Bordeaux. So we did a sale with Lafite in 2010 at the apex of the market, with Chinese demand for Lafite, and that was an incredible experience selling that sale with the demand and the bids and telephone bidders at the Mandarin Oriental in Hong Kong, and that was an amazing time. The next day we sold a $10 million collection, and it was meant to take 6 or 7 hours, and it was lots of parcels of wine. And I think it was over within an hour and 10 minutes. And so that was probably the fastest sale for the value. We've also worked with our friends at Domaine Clarence Dillon, with La Maison Briand, with the team at Mouton. We did the Mouton Versailles collection auctions in London, New York, and Hong Kong. That was a fabulous experience, ending up with a dinner drinking the Mouton 45 at Versailles. with all the buyers from that auction. With Shadow Palmer and Thomas Giroux, the team there, we sold a barrel of 2015 Palmer for the first time, selling a barrel at auction before it had been released on Primeur. And many other producers, Lange-Barge, Jabelet, Ornelas, we do an annual auction with them for their Vendimia d'Artista program. And so, we've been privileged to work with so many great private collectors and also so many great producers. We did an auction with the PFE the other day, the Prima Family Vini, of one of their special cases. So I'm being very privileged to do those auctions and to be an auctioneer for them. That's a great honor. But I hope the best ones are going to be ahead of me rather than behind me.
N'en doute pas. Évidemment, la situation sanitaire mondiale, la pandémie de Covid-19 a chamboulé beaucoup de métiers, beaucoup de nos activités. Le monde des enchères n'est pas épargné. Comment s'est-il transformé depuis 1 an et demi?
Oh, I mean, it was March last year was was a very challenging time. I remember very well. I was at an amazing Magnum tasting at Harlan, out in Napa Valley, where we tasted all the Magnums that they'd ever produced, every vintage they produced. And I flew back, and literally I had one day in the office, and that was and then we were back at home. And I remember, it was. I live in the middle of Manhattan, so we had literally sirens going every 24 hours a day for at least 6 weeks. We had the field hospital. I remember it being a very, very scary time. And at the same time, we were trying to navigate how we would manage our business and how we would generate sales over what was clearly going to be a time whereby we weren't going to be able to host live auctions. So we used to host 27 live auctions a year, roughly speaking. And then we were going like, okay, so how do we do this? And how do we generate revenue? How do we sell wine? And how do we keep our business open? We also have a retail business, and that was the same questions. So we very, very quickly, we luckily had the technology, which we'd already developed, and we were transitioning our business to being more of an online business. And then we made the decision to very, very quickly transition and turn ourselves into a digital business. So we obviously had calls with our teams in London, New York, and Hong Kong. We rescheduled our sales. We explained to our colleagues how we were going to operate and how we were going to run them on the digital platform. And then obviously we had to speak with our consigners and then present the sales online. What was incredibly fortunate was that the market was with us. So this was not, whilst the market did dip very, very fast and hard, it bounced back very, very quickly. And so with the markets being with us and everyone being stuck at home and not being able to go out to restaurants, etc., what we found was that there was a very, very buoyant market for and demand for it, and people were able to adapt and go online. And so once we'd proven that we could be successful with our consigners, they then had the confidence to move forward, and the buyer demand was there. And luckily we had the digital tools to enable it to happen in a very slick and professional way. And then we very, very quickly added new digital tools. So we didn't have filtering of how to navigate red, white, different appellations, regions, countries, producers, vintages, etc. We quickly added filters to our program. And so it was an unbelievably challenging time. The innovation was rapid and fast. We wouldn't have been as successful if we didn't have the market with us. But the market has remained with us, and now it's obviously going to be a hybrid approach. We had an auction here in New York last Saturday, which was a $3 million auction. We didn't unfortunately have any clients able to attend, but we have a new sale room, a new setup, which is very dynamic. The app works unbelievably well. We broadcast all our auctions on the app, and so people can bid. It's very seamless from an advanced bidding state to a live auction. Some of the technology which we've introduced, so we now have advanced bids. So you can see where the bid level is as you run up to the auction. and then bidders get outbid notifications. So a lot of the technology, which is really appreciated by people, much more transparency, and much more engagement. And yeah, we're getting roughly 40% new buyers coming into the market, and roughly 50% of the new buyers, about 75% are under 50, about 45% under 40.
On a vu que cette crise sanitaire, finalement, a changé les comportements, les habitudes des acheteurs, et que ça nécessitait beaucoup de réactivité, d'agilité de la part d'une entreprise comme Sotheby. D'après vous, quels sont dans un univers qui change, un univers très compétitif, celui des enchères, quels sont les atouts et les points forts de Sotheby, justement, par rapport à la concurrence?
Well, that's very interesting. So, I mean, I think we are, I would say, overall, a very innovative group of people. So we adapt to change very, very well. We're always forward thinking about how we can adapt and change and drive our business forward. And that, yeah, the COVID situation and our technology and how we adapted to that, and how we continue to add and invest in the technology side of it is super important. I think the core of it, and it came back to when I joined Sotheby's in 1990, with Serena Sutcliffe joined very, very shortly after me, and previously had been run by David Molyneux-Berry. And there was always a unbelievable integrity about the business in terms of authenticity and condition of wines, and that we would not ever sell wines that weren't in good enough condition or that were not authentic, or we doubted their authenticity. And so I think that has been the sort of the quality level has been the underpinning of what we've been doing, and that's obviously led by our team of specialists who are unbelievably knowledgeable, passionate, and an experienced group of people who navigate not just those issues of authenticity and condition, but also the understanding of the marketplace. And then I think it goes to how do we present the wines and spirits for sale? How do we present collections? What's the storytelling of each different collection? What's the provenance? And so I think our niche market is really in presenting and selling the best collections of wines, whether they're from private collections or direct from wineries, and doing that storytelling and telling it with the sort of with the trust and an understanding of that we've done the diligence on the provenance and the authenticity and the condition sides of it. And so I think it's the sort of combination of the innovation, taking the ultimate whiskey sale, taking the property from the US, putting it not into the new Bond Street sale room, but into a sale room with the RM cars, and creating a different environment for it. I think we have lots of innovation to come. I think there's lots of things we're planning for later this year, including obviously working with Sotheby's for the first time. But I think it's that sort of the combination of quality, ethics, and innovation that sort of keeps our business at the forefront.
Est-ce qu'avec l'accélération de la mondialisation et ce marché global des enchères, l'exigence sur la traçabilité, l'authentification, la lutte contre la contrefaçon est devenue encore plus stratégique?
Yes, I mean it's always been an issue since I joined the business in 1990, and it's had its peaks and troughs with Hardy Rodenstock and Rudy Kurniawan, and other areas. We come across it all the time. It's a blight of our industry, but it's something we have to navigate, and we always have navigated it. We'll continue to have to navigate it, and we see it in the spirits business as well, and it's a challenge for all of us. But one which we take on and endure, and hopefully technology will improve in protecting the wineries from people counterfeiting their wines. I'm sure the counterfeiters' technology will also improve. So it's a continuous battle.
Alors avant de passer aux questions de notre audience, deux dernières petites questions sur des actualités à venir. La première, c'est que vous allez ouvrir un bureau en France, à Bordeaux, j'ai cru comprendre.
So that's yes. We're starting our auction business in France this year. We will actually be having two separate warehouses, one in Bordeaux and one in Beaune, and so we will be selling effectively out of Bordeaux and out of Beaune. And we'll have a team that will be based out of our Paris office, where we have a lot of support and infrastructure. But we will definitely be in both Bordeaux and in Beaune. We obviously we're very privileged to be working with the Hospice de Beaune for the first time this year. It's extremely exciting. It's the oldest charity auction in the world since 1859. We get the honor of participating in 161st edition. And so we're working with with Monsieur Poe, Ludivine Griveau, and the team at Hospice de Beaune in working with them for the first year, which in a sort of post or coming out of COVID environment has specific challenges. But I think we're super excited about working with our friends at the Hospice de Beaune and presenting that, and that's certainly something which is an exciting part of our launch. It's not the sole reason for our launch. We would still be launching in France because we believe that selling in France and making France the center of our continental European sales is the right thing to do at this time. And so we're very excited about it. We actually believe that France can be one of the most important selling centers for us, which obviously it hasn't been to date.
Alors, vous avez évoqué les hospices de Beaune et je comptais conclure l'entretien avec ça. C'est, vous l'avez dit, un événement majeur, historique. Comment on approche cette vente aux enchères avec peut-être l'envie d'apporter quelque chose de nouveau? Comment vous l'appréhendez, cette reprise?
Well, so we're unbelievably fortunate to have a phenomenal team of people in our Paris office who are fully embracing the logistics around this auction. It is a monster. It's super exciting, but there are a lot of logistical hurdles in managing it. So we have a great team of people from our managers there through our operations people, our press, marketing, etc. Are all working extremely hard on it. And it's a real partnership between our wine team and our Paris office. And so our wine team, we have Fred Guillaume de Repair, who's been with us for about 15 or more years. He's working on it, it is very, very interesting. I spent a lot of time in Beaune a couple of weeks ago with Ludivine and understanding the market, talking to the negociants, and understanding the different perspectives of those, because you have a number of different constituents. You have the Hospice de Beaune, which are running a full-fledged hospital, as well as the Hotel Dieu, and Ludivine running a series of 118 different vineyards with 23 different growers. And so you have all of their interests. You have the people of the town of Beaune who all feel very passionate about the auction. You have all the negociants, whether that's the historical ones or the newer ones. You obviously have Sotheby's and you have our clients, and so there's a lot of interested parties to make happy, and so it is. I think it's a very exciting opportunity. I think we look forward to. We have some ideas about how to present the auction and how to communicate about it. Ludivine's been making unbelievably good wines, I think there's a lot of mystery around the auction, and I think trying to tell the story simply about what the auction is, why it exists, where do the funds go, what is the quality of the wines, the fact that the wines are sold by the cuvée rather than by the vineyards, and so there's lots of complexity which I think we can help demystify, and I think we can also bring in new buyers and new visitors to Beaune. And excite and animate a broader audience for it. So it's a project which we don't take lightly. It is an honor, and so we will hopefully over the course of a number of years we'll look forward to I think bringing some of our innovation to that project as well.
En tout cas, c'est un événement que l'on suivra de très très près à la fin de l'année. Alors, on va passer aux questions de nos spectateurs aujourd'hui. Une première question qui est assez large, mais peut-être que vous allez réussir à nous donner quelques précisions. Qui sont vos acheteurs et quels sont leurs profils?
So our buyers are a group of international people. So roughly we get from bidders, we get roughly 30% of our buyers from Europe, Asia, and the Americas. As far as the actual buyers are concerned, as I've said, yeah, roughly 65% of the value goes to Asia, and roughly the rest split between Europe and the Americas. In terms of who they are, there are, yeah, I think that there's been an evolution. So the average age has gone from 65 to 40. There used to be a lot of doctors, lawyers, and sort of professionals who used to be collecting the wine. It then went through a phase of it was all finance people. So it was investment bankers and hedge funds. And now it's a really very broad, diverse group of people, whether it's people from technology, from real estate, from all aspects of business, obviously including finance. And so it's a very, very diverse marketplace of anyone who really enjoys, you know, eating, drinking, sharing things. And so it's very difficult to define who the specific person is. Someone who loves life, I think.
Alors, un de nos spectateurs ce soir aimerait savoir tout simplement comment fonctionne une vente aux enchères. Est-ce que ce sont des producteurs qui vous contactent, qui vous demandent parfois de vendre leur vin, ou est-ce que c'est vous qui sourcez les vins auprès des producteurs, plus rarement auprès de caves, de collectionneurs?
So that's a very interesting question. So in fact, our sourcing from producers directly from wineries or distilleries is actually a very small part of our business, but an important part of our business. It only represents about 5% of what we sell, but it's an important part because obviously it is the best provenance. And so the wines you're coming directly from the winery or the distillery, yeah, have the best provenance. They've never left there before they're sold by us. So we love working with them and love that yeah, direct contact and the fact that we can provide, yeah, the direct link between the producer and the consumer. But it's a relatively small part of our business. The much larger part is sourcing from collectors. And why do collectors sell wine? Well, there's the 4 Ds. There's there's 3 Ds for the auction business, which is death, debt, divorce. For the wine business and spirits business, we also add doctor's orders. And actually this year there's been a lot of people moving houses. And so we sort of can add that as a category. But generally speaking, most of it is because people have bought and acquired more wine than they can possibly consume in their lifetimes. Yeah, it's available every day to drink. There's a new producer, there's a new vintage. Yeah, you don't know what you're going to want to drink tonight, tomorrow night, etc. And you need to have selection. And so people generally buy more wine than they can drink, and they buy it when they're younger. You know, they may have kids at home. They may not travel so much. You know, they entertain more at home because they've got kids. As the kids grow up, the kids leave home. They travel more. They eat out at restaurants more. They have less parties at home. Their consumption goes down, and so they end up selling some wine. And yeah, if they bought smartly, they generally end up making some money.
Alors, une question certainement d'un amateur de vin d'Alsace qui nous demande ce que représentent les vins d'Alsace dans votre marché des enchères, mais aussi parfois des petites propriétés moins connues dans des régions comme la Bourgogne, par exemple.
So in Alsace, I mean, the wines are incredible. Yeah, I love drinking them. We don't see so many of them at auction. I think because people who love those wines buy them and drink them and consume them. And they're not necessarily thinking of laying them down or collecting them. They are bought by passionate people who love them, who consume them. And so we see less of those coming into the secondary marketplace. And that's just by, I think, the nature of the wines in the region. We would love to see more, and the quality of the wines is amazing. In terms of lesser known producers, yeah, we're in the secondary market. So the secondary market means wines have been already purchased once and have been resold. And so in terms of resale value, it's generally, the resale value is higher for the better known producers than the lesser known producers. And the lesser known producers tend to get consumed in the same way that Alsace does, rather than some of the top Bordeaux's and Burgundies. And if their price hasn't increased in the secondary marketplace, people say, well, let me just drink them. I'll enjoy them. They're good wines. I like them. I'm going to enjoy them. And so really the secondary market is built around wines that increase in value.
On a évoqué également les vins, les super toscans, quelques stars californiennes. Qu'en est-il des vins allemands sur le marché des enchères?
So German wines are a bit like Alsace. They're super fun. We've been drinking a number of them as the weather warms up in New York. And again, we just don't see as many in the auction market as we'd like to. It's I think they're mostly consumed by people who are buying them because they're such fun to drink and so enjoyable. So it's again, I think German wines, Alsace wines, lesser producers all fall into that similar category.
Vous avez évoqué en début d'interview qu'il y avait un côté acteur dans l'animation d'une vente aux enchères. Qu'est-ce qu'il faut comme qualité pour tenir une salle, l'animer, la faire vibrer et rendre une vente aux enchères palpitante?
So I think you need energy because you need to engage with the audience. So when you're acting, you're reciting your lines and you're projecting out. With an auction, you need audience participation. With no one raising their arms and doing anything, you have a very, very boring auction. So therefore, you need to animate the auction and have a rapport with the audience. And so therefore, you need to engage with them. You need to certainly retain control, but you need to use engagement. You need to use energy. You need to use pace, slower, faster. You need to use intonation. Different ways of saying an increment, like 1800, 1800, 1800. And so you need to have fun. You need to look as though you're having fun, and you need to be also having fun. And you need to knowing your audience, knowing the wines, and you use anything that happens in the sale room to try and keep the engagement going and keep people engaged, because we sell much faster than most of our other categories. Some auctions go at 20 lots an hour, some go at 60 or 80. We're doing normally 150 plus an hour. So it's rapid fire, but keeping people engaged is important.
Alors, j'ai une autre question d'un spectateur qui revient sur le sujet de la pandémie de Covid-19 et la façon dont les ventes aux enchères virtuelles ont modifié les pratiques. Est-ce que vous prévoyez déjà de continuer sur ce modèle un peu hybride avec une montée en puissance des enchères virtuelles? Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres technologies qui modifient votre façon de travailler votre business? Et est-ce que votre équipe a le sentiment que ce challenge, finalement, va présenter de bonnes opportunités pour l'avenir?
Yes, so I mean, I think undoubtedly we're not going backwards. We're only going forwards. We used to print catalogs for everything we do. We do not do that anymore. We print very, very few catalogs. We print them only for our most sort of prestigious sales. So everything will be online. Many of our clients they've already forgotten we used to print catalogs, and they don't want them. And so everything will be focused on mobile first, digital first. And yes, we'll run, I would guess, two different models at the end of the day. We'll run an online only model where there is no live auctioneer and everything is automated. And then we'll run the hybrid model whereby we have the full automation, but with a live auctioneer and a live audience and telephone absentee, telephone advanced bidding, online bidding, and live in-person bidding. So I would think we'll use all of those technologies to sell in the future. I think it is the transparency, the efficiency. For example, with a printed catalog, you don't know if someone has been looking at the Mouton 82, lot number 10 or not. With a digital footprint, you know exactly who's been looking at those lots, so therefore you can target them. So the sophistication behind the digital environment is certainly beneficial. As for our colleagues and the opportunities, I think yes, I think there's the fine wine business, I think, is still an unbelievably exciting area. I think there's so many more people wanting to taste these wines, enjoy them, share them, learn about them, that I think the future is very, very bright for not just the secondary market, but also the primary market, the retail market.
Alors, on a pas mal de questions qui continuent de tomber. On va continuer 5 minutes et après, on va vous libérer, Jamie. Un de nos spectateurs aimerait savoir ce qui motive finalement les acheteurs à payer parfois très cher pour des vieux vins qu'ils ne peuvent pas goûter par définition, et à propos desquels ils ne peuvent pas être sûrs qu'ils seront encore bons ou consommables.
So I mean, well, so part of our role is to try and make sure that they have the best chance of being good. So we do reject a lot of wines. We inspect every bottle of wine or spirits, and to try to make sure it's good. So we weed out a lot of wines, and we don't sell a lot of wines that we're presented with. So we do try and make sure that that there's the best chance of having it. And then it comes down to essentially to price, yeah. And so we all have our price, the guideline internally, for ourselves. So like, okay, I'm going to spend up to this on an everyday bottle of wine. I'm going to spend up to this on a special occasion, like I'm having some friends around for dinner at the weekend, bottle of wine, and like I'm going to blow it out. And and for this group of friends, or for me and my partner, I'm going to spend this amount of money. We've all got our price points, yeah. And so some people have very, very different price points, yeah. And they can afford everything they want in the world. And they want to enjoy these things. They've never tasted these things. It's their passion. It's their hobby. Why not spend the money? It's what for $50 to me is $1 to someone else. So I think it's each person has their own thresholds as to what they would buy. Maybe for investment, maybe to have in their collection, and maybe to pull the cork on. And we've all got our different thresholds. And I know many very, very wealthy people who would never spend that much money on a bottle of wine, and many who that's why they make the money, because they want to enjoy those occasions. So I think it all comes down to personalities.
Un de nos spectateurs aimerait savoir si votre père ou un autre membre de votre famille était habitué aux ventes aux enchères, ce qui aurait pu vous donner le goût ou l'envie de vous plonger dans cet exercice.
Yeah, and so I was, as I mentioned earlier, I was dragged around a bunch of different regional auction houses in Wiltshire in England. When I was young, and we were always carting things out of auction houses. All different sort of things. So yes, I was exposed to it as an early age, but I think it was a sort of the confluence of maybe that exposure, my interest in getting into the fine wine business, and my sort of desire to do some sort of performance, from an acting role, and it was sort of the confluence of those three things that meant that perhaps it was destiny that I ended up doing this role and love what I do.
Est-ce qu'il faut un diplôme en particulier, ou en tout cas un cursus pour faire votre travail aujourd'hui?
You need to have a strong constitution. I work with a friend of mine who's still a great friend of mine, but he doesn't have a high tolerance for alcohol, and he now is in a much more lucrative financial career. And so I think you do need a strong constitution, number one, because it is endurance. Because while you're having lunch and dinner with clients and enjoying that aspect of the business, the email doesn't stop, the workload doesn't stop. So there's that part of it. Endurance. Do you need a degree? No, you don't need a degree. You need a passion. You need to be interested in it. So you do need to learn about it. I did the Wine and Spirit Education Trust, courses through diploma. I did. I sat the sort of the starter of the MW course a few times. Never pursued that. And so I think you do need to learn about it. Some qualifications are good, but you don't need a degree.
Bien, alors une dernière petite question et après on vous libère, Jamie. Et là, c'est pas au commissaire-priseur que je m'adresse, mais à l'amateur de vin. Je sais que vous devez en avoir beaucoup, mais votre plus beau souvenir de dégustation, votre plus belle bouteille, ce serait quoi?
Oh, and that's
Tricky one.
That's too challenging. I've been lucky enough to drink so many great wines. Montreal 78 from DRC, a number of years ago was the greatest white wine I've ever had. whether it's Latache 62, Mouton 45, Cheval Blanc 47. Yeah, I've been very, very spoilt throughout my career. Yeah, Sassicaia 85. I mean, yeah, there are numerous wines, which I've been lucky enough to enjoy. And I think the best bottle of wine is the ones that's in front of you, that you've got a corkscrew and you open and you enjoy. And yeah, the one thing I would say is that I'm very I love wines in their youth through until through when they're ready to drink along the plateau. I'm not a big fan of wines once they've once they've got to the end of the plateau and they're fading. I tend to find that I lose interest pretty fast when they're on their way on the decline. I love them on the incline and on the plateau, but when they're on the decline, that's where I tend to lose interest. And I'm not a big fan of oxidation. So.
Très bien, merci beaucoup. Merci Jamie de nous avoir fait partager cet excellent moment, votre carrière, votre passion. Merci à la Cité du Vin et à tous les spectateurs qui ont répondu présents à cette interview.
Oui, merci beaucoup
À
Jamie.
très bientôt.
Et Mathieu Doumange aussi pour ce moment d'échange. On était vraiment ravis de vous écouter ce soir. Donc, nous aurons le plaisir de vous proposer un prochain rendez-vous en ligne mardi prochain, donc mardi 1er juin à 19h. Donc, à 19h avec Fabricio Brussella. Donc, Fabricio Brussella qui est du coup professeur à l'Université de Bruxelles, physicien, mais aussi directeur et professeur à l'école d'onologie IWD. Donc, Fabricio Brussella viendra nous parler de l'umami. Donc, comme vous le savez, peut-être on dit que les 4 saveurs de base sont le salé, le sucré, l'amer et l'acide. Et en fait, l'umami est cette 5e saveur qui est la 5e saveur gustative. Donc, il va tout nous expliquer sur cette saveur qui est assez particulière. Voilà, pour vous inscrire, je vous invite à aller directement sur le site de la Cité du Vin. Il reste encore des places. Donc, nos remerciements encore à Jamie Ritchie, Mathieu Doumange et bien sûr à Terre de Vin. Voilà, merci. Au revoir.